So we'll start just with the agenda here to give everyone an idea of what we'll talk about today. We'll start with introductions, and then me and Robin will go over our active communities tool assessment modules report for our REACH grant. And then Bailey and Teresa have a report for us on our sector's implementation project for modal counts for Cleaver and Mission Road. And then we have some Kansas City Healthy Lifestyles Collaborative updates at the end. I think we'll start with introductions, and I just put an icebreaker question after you introduce yourself and your affiliation. Maybe just say what you've been enjoying watching the most at the Paris Olympics. I'll go first. My name is Natalie Updike. I work on the Kansas City Healthy Lifestyles Collaborative team, and the infrastructure sector is one of the sectors that I support. Then I guess I've been watching a lot of sand volleyball, probably the most lately, and some of the track now that it's got started. Robin, do you want to go next?
Sure. Robin Shook from Children's Mercy, also on the KCHLC team. And we've been watching a lot. I would say I've most enjoyed watching Katie Ledecky. Like, she just is like amazing to me. Like, she seems like one of those athletes that like she just will not let herself loose. So I like watching that. So let's see. Bailey, do you want to go next? You're next on my screen.
Sure. I'm Bailey Waters. I'm one of the co-leads of this infrastructure sector, and I work for the city of Kansas City, Missouri, in our public works department. And I guess what I've enjoyed watching most this year is probably the men's gymnastics. I haven't really watched that much before, and they're just so strong. I don't understand. Yeah. Teresa, do you want to go?
Morning, everybody. My name's Teresa. I work for Bike Walk KC, and alongside Bailey, I help co-lead the infrastructure sector. My favorite thing I've seen so far was the swimmers doing the open water swim in the Seine River. I just thought that was really cool. I think it's amazing Paris like cleaned the river up so people could swim in it and it was safe. I loved the photo ops of like the mayor getting in like before the game started, and I was like, wow, that would be so cool if we did that to the Missouri River. And I think Quentin Lucas should do that and then go for a swim in it. Amanda, do you want to go next?
Sure. Which I feel like Brush Creek has like potential there, but anyway, that might be too big of a task. So I'm Amanda Grimes. I'm a professor at UMKC in health sciences, and I've been watching women's gymnastics the most, and so it just got wrapped up, but exciting stuff there. And let's see, Garrett, I don't think you've gone yet.
I'm Garrett Kaus. I work at Garver, and I guess I've been watching Simone Biles highlights. She's amazing. I don't understand how she's flipping that much. It's pretty incredible.
Chris, you want to go?
Chris Crawlup. I'm with the as I said, with the Olathe Public School District. I'm their manager of planning for them. And Olympic-wise, quite honestly, I haven't watched that much. The last thing I watched, well, the most interesting thing, I watched skateboarding a couple nights ago. It's kind of like watching snowboarding on the thing there. And I'll throw it to Josh.
Hi, Chris. Thank you. My name is Josh Thiede. I live in Mission, Kansas. My day job is an acoustics engineer, but I also like advocating for walkability and bikeability in the evenings. I managed to catch the finals of the new kayak cross event yesterday, where it's like battle canoes. It was wild. So that was definitely my most memorable moment of the Olympics so far.
So I missed that. What is it?
The event is called Kayak Cross.
And like, what are they?
There's 4 kayaks at the same time going down and trying to hit all the different targets. And then in the middle of it, they all have to roll over in the same zone. And it's full contact, no rules about not blocking other players. So it was wild.
That sounds awesome. Cool.
Okay.
I have to watch
I
those.
guess I'll move into our first presentation. For you that aren't familiar, we just wanted to get some background on our Kansas City REACH project. Communities Leading Change is the CDC and Prevention's funded program to reduce racial and ethnic health disparities or gap. Children's Mercy, in collaboration with UMKC, was awarded this 5-year project. It's the goal of the project is to address health disparities and chronic disease through our 3 strategy areas: nutrition, physical activity, and our family healthy weight program. And the primary target audience would be Black and Latino families in Kansas City. And just to give everyone an idea, I put the map of our 10 zip codes of interest in Kansas City, Missouri.
What do those zip codes represent, Natalie? Are those like LifeX or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and Amanda, hop in. I don't know exactly which are LifeX zip codes and which are not, but there's a lot of overlap. It's pretty similar. I don't know if it's completely identical or if it's just, mostly identical. But they're all east of Troost.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I was just curious.
Part of the first year of this project is all of those strategy areas I mentioned. They do a landscape review in their first year. In physical activity, that strategy area is specified to use the Active People, Healthy Nations Active Communities tool. So we were required to complete at least 2 of the modules in our first year. So we were going to give you guys an update on what we found from that process. The purpose of this document there's 2, let me back up. There are 2 parts of it. One is the active planning guide, and that's more to use as your community to form an action plan to improve community design to promote physical activity. And the modules are more like the assessment tool. And just to clarify, on the bottom, it shows what these tools are not intended to use. So it's not intended to compare community to community. It doesn't really assess the quality of the infrastructure that's in place or the social support or school programs. And it's not meant to assess the street level community design infrastructure like your width of sidewalks and traffic signals. That second part I mentioned was the assessment modules. To give you an idea of what those look like, I also sent them out with the agenda. So if you wanted to follow along as we go through the report, you might want to open that up. The first part is just kind of broad general questions. If the policies, plans, resources, and environments exist, and then it's got more detailed questions that talk about the strength and comprehensiveness of those plans and policies. And then in general, obviously, the more the items that you mark, usually the stronger and more comprehensive those plans and policies are. And then the ones that we leave unmarked, that's an area where we might be able to make some plans to address some of those gaps. We got a couple people joining. So our team, well, maybe I should wait for these Patrick to join. Okay, so our team did modules 1 and 2. Module 1 is related to street design and connectivity. Module 2 is about the infrastructure for pedestrians and bicyclists. The action plan that I mentioned before highlights the importance of making this a collaborative team effort. So have technical experts that have the information at their fingertips, community members with a lived experience, and then a broader group of decision makers to help develop this action plan based on what we find from the modules. I think, Robin, this is when I'm going to hand it over to you, where we get into more of the data from the modules we completed.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. And I guess maybe it's in here, and I just it's coming up, but
I forgot to mention who helped us complete.
yeah,
this module.
yes. So let's see. In last spring, I think we did it over 2 months, maybe. We had Natalie, Kelly Clay, who's also from Children's Mercy, and myself from Children's Mercy, Bailey from the city, Amanda from UMKC, and Teresa from Bike Walk KC.
And Michael Kelly.
And Michael Kelly from Bike Walk KC. We went through these first 2 modules and filled them out. And so, like, as we share some of this information, as I share some of this information, Bailey, Amanda, Natalie, Teresa, feel free to chime in with comments, or if I'm not explaining something clearly enough, please hop in and correct me. So first, it's important to define some of the key terms that they use in this module. There are some around, defining specific roads, different types of streets. Probably the most relevant things are what is a plan and what is a policy and what is a resource. And here's some examples, and then there's going to be some more specific examples on some future slides too. So for example, here, for this first module, and each module kind of defines it slightly differently, or there's some tweaks to it. So this is for street design and connectivity. These are the definitions. So a plan is things written and adopted by a local authority. They can be standalone or as part of a comprehensive plan. Policies are things that are passed by local governing authorities. Let's see, they can include questions around residential or commercial regulations, zoning codes, land use codes, all of these very specific technical things. Those fall under policies. And resources are things that support plans, policies, and built environments. And so that might be programs, that might be other educational materials, it might be technical support, it might be a whole host of things. So that's plans, policies, and resources. And one thing I will just say is, oh, thanks. You can kind of see some of these questions here. Like Natalie said, she sent around the document as well. I pasted the link in the chat as well. So here is, like, under the plan section, here's question 1.1. Does the community have a plan that identifies high and low stress streets? Yes, no, don't know, not applicable. Do they have a plan that prioritizes street connectivity in neighborhoods with high stress streets? So you can kind of see, oh, and 1.3 is a good one. Does the community have major and collector street plans, either as standalones or part of a comprehensive plan? So these are the types of questions that are included in this document. And maybe before I show you, well, first of all, let me say, we just did Kansas City, Missouri. Every municipality and jurisdiction would have their own, set of plans, policies, and resources. So we just did Kansas City, Missouri. So keep that in mind. But we wanted to share this data with you because, one, it will tell you about Kansas City, Missouri, and it may be helpful for you if you live in one of these other jurisdictions or municipalities. Maybe you might want to do this as well. Fill out this similar assessment. Just before we show you the data, what do you guys think we'll find in terms of street just the overall environment for Kansas City, Missouri for plans and policies and resources to support safe streets, bike, pedestrian supports. What do you think? Do you think we're a gold, silver, bronze, or not even placing?
Bronze,
Bronze?
yeah. That's my guess.
I'm gonna guess we have a lot of communities that have it on the book. How many of them follow it might be a different story. So I'm gonna say a silver on the books.
That's great foreshadowing, Chris, I think. Yeah, so okay, well let's look at some of the data. So here is this is just for street design and connectivity. Here we just did there's not a great way to share this information. So we just simply counted up the number of yeses, the number of nos, and the number of unknowns for plans, policies, and resources. So I think the best case scenario would be we would have a lot of plans. We would have a lot of yeses for plans and policies, and fewer no's or unknowns. That would, signify that I think we've got a lot of things that have been thought about and put in place. And I don't know, for plans, it's pretty evenly about the same number of yeses and nos and unknowns. Policies, it's a little bit better. There's more policies in place, not a lot of resources. Bailey, Teresa, Amanda, any commentary on this?
I don't know if you guys will get to this too, but I think like one thing that maybe surprised me, it was like, I feel like we did have a lot of the plans and policies, but then it was like the enforcement part was where we kind of had to put like, sometimes, or it's not strictly enforced kind of thing. And so that was, it's promising to see that many policies and then be like, oh, well, there's ways around them. It's a little, concerning.
Yeah, and it's tricky in the assessment modules because in scenarios like that, you often have to say, yes, we have a plan or a policy, but we all know that it may not be enforced, and so it may not accurately be reflected in this assessment.
The green bar under policies, that's mostly the ones that were like, it's there, but it's suggested,
Okay.
but not required.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so this is for street design and connectivity. Let's go to the next one. This is on infrastructure to accommodate pedestrians and cyclists. And they actually broke this one up into 3 sections. So section A is kind of combined infrastructure for pedestrians and bicyclists. And then B and C separate out the 2. I think next slide, you have the definitions, is that right? Yeah, okay. So here are the things that they talk about. Complete streets. I think a lot of us are familiar with complete streets. Comprehensive plans, shared youth paths, and traffic calming measures. So let's go ahead and look at the data here. Oh, here you go. Okay, yeah. So plans and policies, these are pretty similar to the other one, other module. Environment, this was mostly, like I said, focused on shared use paths, including paved and unpaved trails available in the community. Shared use paths do not include sidewalks or side paths. Okay, let's see that. Oh, here's an example of some of them. So this big table that they ask lots of things about. So does your complete streets policy, ordinance, resolution require or suggest, for example, prioritizing populations with the greatest need with considerations for equity and inclusion. Do you require it, suggest it? No. Is it not applicable or don't know? So for example, we suggested, or KCMO suggested it. Provide private development projects need to comply. That's a requirement. So you can kind of see what some of the things that they asked about in this module. Okay, go ahead. So this one, you can see there were a lot of plans and policies that were in place, but then there was almost an equal amount that weren't, and just a couple that we're unsure of. And that kind of carried through to policies as well. The environment seemed to have the highest number of no's compared to yeses, and then higher amount of resources were available than were yeses and no's. So commentary on this. And I guess we put some kind of key takeaways. KCMO has overarching plans, things like Vision Zero and Complete Streets. The majority of the gaps were associated with shared use paths, connectivity, and maintenance. And this was, I think, prior to the, for example, the Gillum Trolley Trail connector on Cleaver, right? So, any comments here from anyone? Okay, let's maybe go to the specific ones where we separate them out. And you can skip this one. I think this is pretty similar. So this section just is specific to pedestrians. For, I think, plans and policies are pretty much the same. Environment is specific to sidewalks in this section, not multi-use paths or trails. Okay, go ahead. And here's some examples of the questions. Let's see, 28.10. Are there standards established for sidewalk widths? Yes, and they go beyond minimum criteria. Yes, they meet minimum criteria. No, not Apple. Do not know. And for KCMO is yes. And those minimum criteria, Bailey, those are, what are those standards? There's some engineers here.
Our minimum width is 5 feet. Yeah.
And that is based on some national recommendation or something, is that right?
Yeah, it's based off of ProWag.
Okay.
Pedestrian rights of way.
Great.
Guidance.
Let's see, and then down at the bottom, 28.14, does maintenance on sidewalks in the community, such as, keeping things level, clean up debris, things like that, is that done through a scheduled process? Yes, no, not applicable. And this was a no there. So that's an example of some of the questions. Okay, let's see the data. And this was, we had a new column here, community. This refers to questions that are not, they just talked about community and connectivity. So equal number of yeses and nos for both that, plans and policies. A lot of no's for environment, a lot of no's for resources. So, and again, this is just for pedestrians. So lack of environment and resources pertaining to pedestrians. We thought that this might be an indication that there are plans in place, but not utilized in practice. And then this is the last one. This is for, what's this one for, Natalie? Was this the?
This might have been about the previous one still.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, yeah. Additional comments on the environment resources. So we identified the potential gaps for the environment questions as how these walkways are maintained, lack of data or surveillance on pedestrian counts, and lack of safety amenities. For resources, some gaps included no community advisory group for pedestrian related policies or plans. Okay, then this is on for bikes. So there's a lot of specific things here that you can kind of see, you know, they separate out. They had questions about bike boulevards, bike lanes, bike facilities, buffer distance, all those things. Shared streets, all that stuff, sharrows. So you can find those definitions in the document, but there were lots of questions about those. These policies and plans are pretty much the same as previous modules. The environment was just about the built environment in the community. Okay, let's go ahead to the next slide. So here are some of the questions that they asked. So in the table, for protected bike lanes, do the community policies reverse the position of the parking and bike lanes to create a physical separation between the bicycle and motor vehicles? Required, suggested, no, not applicable, don't know. So no there. Vertical separation, that was a no there. Retrofit conventional buffered lanes to protected bike lanes, that was a no there. So not that those things don't exist, but the policy, this is just specific to the policy there. 22C.22, does the community have policies that incentivize developers to incorporate bike amenities? And yes, here, so bike parking is required, both short-term and long-term, based on criteria. So that's an example of how that incentivizes developers. So for bikes, as you can see here, even number for plans in terms of yeses and nos, lots of nos for policy. Environment was kind of a mixed bag, and like we saw with pedestrians, not a lot of resource support. So lack of policies or takeaways are lack of policies and resources pertaining to bikes. Some shared, there are some built environments, particularly for bikes, but not a lot of resources. And then the next slide, I think, yeah, some other specific gaps for policy. Low speed shared streets, bike boulevards, buffered bike lanes, and protected bike lane policies are a gap. And for environment, an advisory group, there was a gap for an advisory group related to bike policies and plans. What thoughts on that before we, I guess, move on?
I don't know if this is the end or not, but I'll just chime in here anyway.
Yeah.
So this project is really interesting timing with the city, because right now we are undergoing a project to redo our major street plan, which is that plan and policy that guides a lot of these things. And so like we do have protected bike lanes here, but there's no street typology in our major street plan that has separated bike lanes. There's none with like parking and bike lanes on the same street. There's, you know, our major street plan doesn't match what's like actually getting built in some spots. And so anyway, we are updating that plan, and it's like honestly really handy to have this questionnaire. So as we're like updating that major street plan and creating a streets design guide, we can incorporate all of these things into that. So all the things that we've answered no, hopefully can be a yes in the new streets design guide. And then I'll also make a plug that we're currently doing public engagement about a streets design guide, which is like really hard to do. I don't know how you like guys in research especially do this because it's like such a broad and general topic that it's so hard to, get feedback on something like this. But I will put the survey in the chat so you all can take it and give feedback and give it to whoever else you want. But we're basically trying to make Kansas City's first streets design guide. Like we have a complete streets policy, we have a Vision Zero policy, but these things aren't like incorporated into our design standards. And so that's something we're working on right now. And so the timing worked out great with your all's project to be able to kind of guide this work. Cool.
Yeah, that's a great and we just have one slide that'll kind of like talk a little bit about that, but I mean, it's like, how do you use this information? I think that, that's what we weren't really sure how to do when we did it, but I'm glad that the timing worked out well for you, Bailey. And then it could be an example of how other jurisdictions might want to do something similar to this.
Yeah.
Any other, yeah, I'll share just this slide and one more, and then we can have more. We just wanted to share the information and have people react to it. We don't really have any next steps for it, like I just said. Now, in this module, or in the planning guide that the CDC provides, they recommend you develop an action plan. And here is what, Natalie, right, you took this straight from that document. So, they say first, collect the information, then you get around a group like this and you brainstorm about the potential gaps. We've tried to identify some. We know what we said is not complete or anything like that. So other people may have other things they think are gaps. Then, create a list of opportunities for action or engagement. For example, like Bailey said, there's the survey, there's other tools that can be done. And then identifying which are probably the most, which things you should do first, whether they are the low-hanging fruit or whether they might have the biggest return on investment in the short term. And then you actually formalize the plan. So that's just an example from their module on how to use this data. One other slide, maybe just, yeah, real quick, and then we'll stop sharing our slides here. We did 2 modules. There's 4 other modules that are part of this. One is on public transportation, one is on land use planning, one is on parks and rec, the other is on schools. And it is our intention that over the next year, we'll slowly start to fill out these other modules. They take anywhere between 30 minutes and an hour to do. Some might be a little bit longer. Natalie listed who should be involved in in helping complete the module. And so if you're interested, or someone that might be interested in serving and helping us complete some of these other modules, put your name in the chat. You can reach out to us by email. Maybe Chris, this might be something that your school district might want to do, and might be helpful to join that. And we'll schedule a time. Again, there's no urgency here for us. We truly do plan on taking like the next 12 months to complete these things. So, okay, we'll stop sharing our slides. Other comments about what you saw here? After seeing the data, do you think that KCMO is a gold, silver, bronze, or did not place? Would you like to revise your medal categorization?
Still bronze, I think. I'm curious though.
I'm curious. I'm gonna guess they didn't place. I don't know. It seems like there's not a lot of policy from what it looked like. So it looks like that could be a negative.
We move on to our next report. Okay, Bailey and Teresa, you're up.
Cool.
Awesome. Bailey, I can share my screen. I've got the spreadsheet pulled up if that's helpful.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Is that big enough? I can do a little bigger. How's that?
I think that's good.
Well, Bailey, we can just kind of tag team this. We don't have a ton to share with you guys today in terms of like analysis or like what does this mean? What we're showing you today is the pre-complete streets or like pre-infrastructure bicycle and pedestrian counts for the 2 corridors that we wanted to study. So one of them is along Mission Road, and I can show you that segment here. So we had a camera, they're called MyoVision cameras. Bike Walk KC went out with Bailey's help, and we put a camera, I think we had it at this corner of the intersection at 47th Ave and Mission. And then we had another camera right here at West 51st Terrace, and that camera was like right in this corner so that we could track movements. You can see there's like kind of a little bit faded, but there's a crosswalk here. This is a school. So the reason we chose Mission Road as one of our candidates is they, I believe next spring, so we have some time on this one, but they're going to be like maybe adding some bike lanes. As a dog owner, I would love that. Bike lanes. And potentially removing some parking, adding some pedestrian scaled lighting. It's I've not been super involved, but it's been a very contentious project. A lot of the people that live along this street, I have a lot of emotions related to parking not being available anymore, potentially. So it's been a little bit of a show, but what's cool about doing something like this is we can say, hey, we've got, let me go back to my tabs. Zoom always hides my tabs with the toolbar, which just drives me absolutely. It's like how they haven't fixed that glitch after 4 years of this is wild. So the cool thing is we can use these counts to say, hey, this is how many people we had walking and biking before there was any kind of treatment, which actually, I actually thought these were like decent numbers. I mean, this is a pretty busy intersection if you've ever gone past it, but I thought that was pretty decent bike ped activity. There actually is a bike share hub right around here. So we didn't watch the footage ourselves, like a robot counts these, but you know, there might've been a lot of Ride KC bikes, I'm not sure. So this is what's happening before we have any like real good infrastructure in place for bikes and peds. And then we're going to be able to go back once there's been a complete streets treatment put in and just compare and contrast. We don't know what will happen, but you know, we have these counts now. So these went out on a Thursday. They counted from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. And it was actually a decent weather day. Like we pay attention to the weather and we'll pivot if it's a bad weather day. I remember it being like maybe like 85 and sunny that day. You know, Thursday, non-holiday, like pretty like typical day. So Bailey, do you want to you want to say anything else about the Mission Road counts or anything, or call
Mm.
anything out for people?
I guess at the West 51st Terrace, so down south a little bit, the pedestrian counts, at not a very busy intersection to the eye. There were 109 pedestrians, and I think the total number of cars was in the hundreds. And so the percentage of pedestrians at this intersection was like 30-something%. Of all the traffic at this intersection, it was like super high compared to what we see on our streets as a region. So that was just kind of cool and interesting.
Yeah,
That
Bailey
is-
and I, oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, so this does get car traffic as well.
Yep, we have the car counts as well.
Does it get speed and things like that? It doesn't get speed.
No.
Yeah, great point, Teresa.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Bailey. Okay, so then the second one we did, which this one is exciting. Bailey had actually already, so the reason we chose Cleaver is Bailey was very proactive and forward thinking. This is not a city policy. It should be a city policy, but she made sure to get pre-counts because she is constantly trying to make the case for why, these projects matter. And so she went out and made sure to get these counts. So this was separate from this group. So claps for Bailey for doing that, because that's a really big deal. So what this group then is funding is we're going to be able to go get the post-treatment counts. But we wanted to show you guys both because these are like our two candidate corridors that we're looking at, and we're going to be like reporting out to this group. So on Cleaver, these were the counts Bailey had gotten. She did, we modeled these the same way. So she did like a standard day of the week, deep, mild weather, non-holiday, all those kinds of things, and did the same thing. Counts went from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. So we can kind of like compare apples to apples with them, at least from that perspective. They're very different, streets, but yeah, so these were the original counts, and the cameras, same type of camera, same technology, went out at Oak Street and Rock Hill Road. So I can pull that up. Bailey, I don't know if you want to say anything about those. So we had camera here
Mhm.
and a camera here, and we're getting some pedestrian mid-block crossings here, and you guys have seen those concrete barriers going in for bikes, and that's, extending down the corridor.
Mhm.
Okay. I'll pull
Yeah,
that up.
on the actual count, I'll add, if you go back to the spreadsheet, you can tell at both Oak Street and at Rock Hill, the bicycle traffic, there's a lot more bicycle traffic going north and southbound on Oak Street than there is going east and westbound. And that's not that surprising, right? Because Oak Street is more of a calm street than Cleaver. And so it'll be really interesting to get post counts on, when Cleaver opens up, do more people take that east-westbound route that is a bit more flat to get over to the Gillum cycle track rather than going up the hill on Oak Street? Maybe people just still continue up Oak Street, but we'll at least have one day's worth of data to maybe glean some information out of. And then it's, at Rock Hill Road, it's a little bit more even between east-west and north-south, but it was especially prevalent there at Oak Street. Patrick, you asked, is something new going into 47th Street? Yeah, so from Oak to Troost, we're building protected bike lanes. It's not complete yet, but it's currently under construction.
Yeah, sorry, I was looking at 47th and Westwood, and if you were doing like pre-counts, I didn't know it was going into 47th Street and Westwood. So
Oh, it's on Mission Road. The one in KCK is a Mission Road project, but it starts
Yeah.
at 47th Street.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Mhm.
I was just reading your chart wrong.
No worries. Yeah, so there's our Cree data. Cleaver should be done in the next 2 months. Hopefully before then, but I try to tell people a longer time than it'll actually take. So then they're like happy when it's done early because construction's never done on time. So anyway, hopefully in the next 2-ish months, it should be done. And I think, I know Amanda had to hop off, but we're working with her students maybe to get some intercept surveys afterward as well, just to get that more anecdotal data
Yeah.
on top of the numbers.
Yeah, if any of you participated in that Gillum cycle track, like intercept survey event that Bike Walk KC did, we were gonna model it similar to that. Go ahead, Robin, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. When do you think you'll do the post counts on Cleaver?
I would hope that it's done in October, which is a pretty decent weather month. And so yeah, I guess hopefully like maybe a week after it finishes, so we're not too pressing into the too cold of weather.
Yeah.
When did you do the pre-counts?
That was in October of last year, I think.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, well, that actually would be great.
Mm-hmm.
And then it would be interesting, right, to do it in like another 6 months, once people
Yeah.
know that it's there and have started to adjust their routes and things like that.
Well, Robin, you said there was some more money for infrastructure at the big sector meeting.
Yeah, so I think the sector gets $15,000, and I think this project was
Like
what was it?
six,
6 something like that.
63, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, that could be, I don't know that I've seen that before of like 2 post counts, like right after and then 6 months after. That's kind of interesting. But yeah, we can talk about what we want to pay attention to next. I know someone else had reached out to us and said there was another Complete Streets project happening. I'd have to look at my email to see where it was. But we have some other places that were slated for, improvements. Actually, I believe it was in Mission.
Yeah, I think-
Carrie reached out to us. Yeah. What street was that? I can't remember, but it was in Mission. But the construction wasn't going to be for like a couple of years or something. So we were going to wait on it. But yeah, we have some other options, or maybe some other communities will have projects that they're going to do. There could be some interesting things because a lot of the communities received Safe Streets for All money. And so those planning efforts will be taking place over like the next year. So some of those implementation plans might have projects that this group would be really interested in. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's it for Bailey and I, though, for an
Yeah, a couple
update
things
for you
on-
all.
I guess Mission, we just completed our bike and pedestrian plan, and I went through the America Walks Fellowship program in the state of Kansas, and that was one of my big action items out of the America Walks Fellowship, was to get our bike and pedestrian master plan for the city done as an advocate. Was pretty good. And then the bike share is coming soon, I hope, to Mission, so that should help as well. And then within that bike and pedestrian master plan, then there's a simultaneous effort going on the Rock Creek corridor, Rock Creek Trail plan. So there's a lot of resources needed now that those plans are in place. Like
Yeah.
we saw with KCMO, the plans are in place. We don't have quite as many policies in the city of Mission as KCMO is. I would assume we have more no's than yeses on policy. So this was a really good way to frame it. Plans are in place, policy comes, and resources must come too. So, thank you.
Thank you,
Awesome.
Josh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something onto Robin, your presentation. As you were talking about kind of the next modules that you guys have, one of them being public transportation. I just want to advertise this for Mark and Patrick if you want to chat about it too. I'm happy to have your input as well. But the Metropolitan Regional Council, Mark, had just completed a survey, a region-wide, like statistically significant survey about transportation. And the only item on that survey, there were like several questions about taxes and would you approve of a tax for such and such thing like road and bridge maintenance or public transit or XYZ thing. The only one that had over 50% people saying yes was for public transportation. And I just thought that was like really exciting, and hopefully things in the region happen soon with that, because our public transportation, you know, is a critical piece to active infrastructure and to getting people to be able to walk and bike more, is like if they're able to take transit for part of that trip. So I just wanted to bring that up and let you all know of that. And if you like, you know, are able to advocate for transit tax to be on ballots or whatnot, to have a more regionally funded thing rather than it just being funded from the cities, that survey is a great way to show that like this would be supported across the whole region. So I just want to make that plug, and shout out to Mark for doing that survey and publishing those results.
Yeah, we can probably get those results to you. There's another really good finding of how like lots of people from every county want walkable, bikeable communities.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there's probably something that's getting lost in the particulars, but it made me wonder, like, why do we get pushback on any of this stuff?
I know, because those people aren't showing up to the meetings, or they're not the ones calling the council people.
Yeah,
You know, I don't know what it is. It's hard.
yeah,
Yeah.
Did you say Mark's survey was statistically significant?
it is. Yes.
Yeah, it was like 61% supported a public transportation tax, which is pretty awesome.
I'm not sure if that survey's living on our website yet, so I might have to figure out where it is and get it to you.
So the 39% of people who are engaged at public meetings are the ones that said no.
I guess. Or it's just one no equals 1,000 yeses. That's what Bobby used to say all the time. And it's unfortunately true at times.
Yeah.
I did look into the Safe Streets for All money and asked some questions to our CDC colleagues, and they said that funding can be used. An application could be submitted to try to do like a regional transportation, public transportation planning, a set of activities. And, you know, I think some of us know here, they are like shoveling money out the door for this. And so I would think if an application is submitted, it would get funded. And like, given that we are multi-state, and if like, not to put Patrick on the spot, but if like an application came from Mark, it could be several $1 million worth of funding over, 2 to 5 years. So
Yeah.
the
I've
only
heard
problem,
people getting like $6 million for planning
Yes.
and demonstration money. Like that's a ton.
yes, exactly right. The problem is the last round of applications are due at the end of the month. So
There's another round next year too, but that is interesting to think about, Robin. I love that idea of like a public transportation oriented project. And even like this planning money that they're kind of just like giving out. So the construction money is over programmed. They don't have enough giving away for that. But the planning and demonstration, they have a ton of, and they're like including a lot of things in that demonstration item where I wonder if it could even include like, oh, the region increases bus service on these 3 major routes for 1 year, and they like pilot demonstrate, more frequent service, and like that money could maybe kickstart some more frequent transit. I don't know. That's just something that popped in my mind, but.
These are great questions, and we being Children's Mercy don't have much to contribute there, but we, as part of this REACH project, the CDC REACH project, we have like additional technical assistance from the CDC and their partners, and so we can arrange any number of technical assistance for grant planning that people would need, and we would be happy to offer that to anyone who wants to do it. So just let us know, and we can help facilitate things.
Cool. Well, thanks you all for attending.
Thank you.
Oh yeah,
Our next
Natalie, do you have a couple
meeting-
things?
Oh,
I think
shoot.
Natalie's got like
I
1
forgot.
minute of things, right? You can go through it quick.
My bad.
Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I put the link for our September quarterly meeting. If you want to learn more specifically what each of those strategy areas in the REACH project are doing, you can attend our in-person meetings, Thursday, September 26th, 9 to 11 a.m. Breakfast will be provided. We just ask that you register ahead of time so we have like a meal count for ordering.
Yeah, that's our Kansas City Healthy Lifestyles Collaborative quarterly meeting. So at Kauffman Foundation Center, free breakfast. We're going to talk about, our main topic will be the CDC REACH project. So, but of
Yeah,
course,
and-
we'll talk about other things too.
Yeah, and the last thing was Katie wanted me in our sector meetings to do a plug for our Move Together KC campaign. We're looking to feature more of our partners involved in the Kansas City Physical Activity Plan. Let me put the link on here. That on our website there is more information about the campaign. It's also got a bank of social media resources, press releases, pictures you can use, style guides, so you can use them on your own private social media accounts or your business or organization ones. As far as the storytelling component, we're looking to do individuals as well as organizations. So if you as an organization are willing to be one of those sector spotlight partners, you can email me and I can connect you with our marketing team.
Just some examples, not to put anyone on the spot, but kind of put people on the spot. Like Patrick, if you wanted to share those MARC surveys, that can be something that we can share and send out for you. And like Josh, you're doing amazing work as a citizen advocate. That would be a perfect thing that we can highlight your work and share what you're doing and all the good things that you've accomplished. So we will put that out there as something that we can do to help elevate the work that you guys are doing. So
That's all I got.
Cool. Thank you.
great meeting.
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone. Our next infrastructure meeting is in 2 months. We'll send you guys a reminder. I believe it's the first Tuesday of October.
Which
9
I think
a.m.
is the first maybe of October.
Oh,
Sweet.
everyone
right,
will be
see you all
drinking